Hello, everybody. We are Ask Adam Steve Show. Hello, Steve. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself, Adam?
I am fantastic. This is a great time of year to be a fan of movies because so many keep coming out. And we're in a little bit like currently on December 7th at the moment. We're in a little bit of a like calm before the storm, before the explosion that is Avatar: The Way of Water. Steve, what have you heard about this movie?
So, first reactions have been coming out, and if you know me, I am not a fan of Avatar. Didn't really get into the first movie at all. And like I respect all of the technical achievements that James Cameron did, but I'm also like I love Terminator 2 and Terminator and stuff like that, but I'm just not the biggest James Cameron guy either. But I've been hearing decent things from the first reactions that are coming out. So like I'm not going out there just to hate this movie right away like some people probably are. I'm hopeful for a good movie, but again, I don't like the first movie. I try to like it. I even tried to watch it earlier this year again, and it's like for the technical achievement, I gave it a 3 out of 5, but honestly, I'd probably rate it lower because I just don't like it.
See, it really worked for me on a rewatch in theaters recently. I watched it in the best way possible. Actually, it was in 4DX, so it was a little weird, but we had fun with it. I am on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to this issue because I am very excited for Avatar: The Way of Water. I think it is going to be amazing and great. I'm predicting right now. I know that the good reviews just came out, but like right now, I'm predicting Avatar: Way of Water is going to get nominated for Best Picture. I don't think it's going to win, but I think it will get nominated for Best Picture. The first one did, man, right?
I am aware that, yeah, and yeah, as much as I don't want it to, like it's the same kind of thing where like the big blockbusters sometimes just get into those because they can do 10 if they want to do 10. So
Mhm.
if they might squeeze that one in there, and I wouldn't be shocked, but there's no way it wins.
So, do you really think like the first Avatar getting nominated for Best Picture? I want to ask you a question. Do you think that's one of the five worst like Best Picture nominations in like the last like this century? So just since 2000.
Uh, Honestly, probably. I'd have to look like very, very detailed list, but it's definitely up there in that area for sure.
Yeah, later I will I will list movies until we get to five. But yes, no, Avatar: Way of Water. Very excited. What format are you watching this in?
All I have is IMAX up here, but that's probably what I'll check it out in just because I want to see it in the biggest screen I can.
Does your IMAX do 3D for this one?
It might, actually, I'm not sure.
And I'm interested to see if yours plays it in the higher frame rate because we're the one we're going to is doing the higher frame rate. You remember like The Hobbit?
Yeah. I'm curious because yeah, if it doesn't, I'm gonna look for a theater that does that because I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, no, I literally said I was like, I will not go to the press screening if it's not IMAX, 3D, and higher frame rate because it's a James Cameron bombastic movie. I love James Cameron; he's all time. I gotta disagree with you on this one. Anything else about Avatar?
I mean, I still haven't seen Titanic, so I can't speak to everything James Cameron. So
Oh
no.
my gosh.
I mean, like I said, I'm gonna go see it. I'm hoping for the best. I'm hoping I like it. I'm hoping that my opinion on the first one does not sour this one because I like to like movies. I don't want to go into it hating it, but the first one just didn't get me. I didn't see it in theaters though, so maybe that's another thing that people always say, but I don't know.
Over 3 hours, do you see yourself using a bathroom break?
For sure. I usually even in 2 hour movies I have to go to the bathroom, so and it's a movie that I don't have as much like really like big stakes into, so I won't see a problem probably getting up in the middle of parts that people are like, why are you getting up right now? And it's I don't know because yeah, the 3 hour runtime, I feel like that could even affect the box office, honestly, because families that may have
Less
taken
screens.
yeah, less screens, families that want to take their children maybe to go see a movie because it's not really like against children or like child friendly, I
No,
think. So
I will be doing family surveys on that movie. It is a family movie.
so yeah, 3 hours. I don't see kids really lasting that long either. So there's gonna be, I don't know if it's gonna hit those numbers that they're gonna need it to. That's the curious thing for me too.
Yeah, I think it will be a success. I think it will make $1 billion worldwide. I don't think it's going to come close to the first one, in box office, but I think in quality it will. I think it will be better. I mean, objectively, the technology is better. It's literally a guy that we all trust, right? Like we believe James Cameron has the ability to make a good sequel to an iconic sci-fi film, right?
I think that James Cameron has the ability, especially technologically, but I need a good story because the first one, I mean, we can just say what it is. It is The Trail of Tears. It's a Native American story that is already a story. So it wasn't really anything that he wrote other than changing them blue. So I'm hoping for something that's actually like an in-depth
But
story where it's not just something he's kind of copying pasting. You know what I'm saying?
to what extent? Like, okay, so Dances of Wolves came out in like what 1990, and then Pocahontas came out later in the 90s. Is Pocahontas now bad because it's copying the story from before?
No,
Maybe it's
Pocahontas is a
over.
made-up character. I mean, these are just like that's I mean, that's a whole different thing 'cause it's kind of telling the story of the Native Americans, where this is kind of trying to just like make up a story with blue people and just doing it for the sake of technology.
Yes, yeah, yes. As someone who doesn't like Dunkirk, yes.
I don't like it either.
But no, I'm very excited. I think it will go better this time. I mean, he got all the feedback from the first time movie, and I'll admit the first movie is not airtight plot wise. It's called Unobtainium. Like that sucks, but I'm very excited for this one. I feel like he's only going to get better. I mean, Aliens, Terminator 2. I trust James Cameron.
I agree with both of those. So yes, I'm hopeful.
I also wanted to bring up there are a couple of trailers that are out. You did not watch either of them because you want to save yourself for the screen. Oh, actually, when you watch Avatar in theaters, you're probably going to see the trailers for both Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny.
I believe so.
Yes. So just to speak on both of them a little bit, the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer is perfect. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is high end Marvel stuff. I trust James Gunn with my life. Oh my gosh, I just smacked myself in the face with my life. Um, yeah, so I trust James Gunn with anything. I'm really excited to see where they go with the Rocket Raccoon character and with Peter Quill, especially since this is like lauded as the last hurrah for these characters. And it looks like a great continuation of their solo films. And I feel like they've been in the meantime between the second one and this one. I feel like we've not graciously, but like gracefully maneuvered through Avengers movies and Thor movies and stuff. Like we're seeing the Guardians regularly. So like while it will be a 6-year gap between movies, they've still been on the big screen. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And actually, you can speak to it because I actually haven't watched it yet too. But the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, we just got that. How was
Mm-hmm.
that?
I loved it. I thought it was everything it needed to be. Feel like it developed characters that we had previously not really gotten much time to spend with, characters who were sidelined, and now they're front and focused. And it makes sense too, because you don't really want to make a whole special about Rocket Raccoon and Groot because you'd have to animate that the whole time. So it's a nice cost-effective way to and it's good. Like I'm applauding them. I'm like, it's good and they saved money doing it. And then that's just James Gunn, and I think he's fantastic, and this is perfect. It's in my Christmas rotation. How about you?
I haven't watched it yet, but I'm still very excited too. Yeah, it's really
Now,
surprising. Yeah, I've been so excited to watch it. I just haven't found the time to do it, but I'm excited to watch it. Same with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I'm gonna watch the trailer hopefully on the big screen beforehand, and I'm very excited regardless of seeing a trailer. So anything James Gunn does, I'm in 100%.
do you think it's going to be top 10 most anticipated for you next year?
Yes, very much so.
Top five.
Probably
This or Spider Verse?
Spider-Verse. Yeah,
Okay,
Spider-Verse. Yeah.
fair. Okay, so the other trailer that came out was Indiana Jones, and also I guess a title drop because there was a trailer before there was even a title. Indiana Jones: The Dial of Destiny. How are we feeling about this title, by the way?
I don't really, I mean, it's fine. It's not really like that enticing, but I think it's cool.
I love it. I think that's my favorite thing about it so far. It just sounds so classic, like a dial, like a sundial. I don't even know what that is, and
Exactly.
destiny. Like that's very in character. So I'm happy about that, but I'm very much so against this movie. Imagine being against a movie. But no, I really am, because Harrison Ford is too old to be the lead of an action movie franchise, like big bombastic action, like Indiana Jones
Well,
adventure movie.
well, yeah, hasn't he got hurt on like almost every set he's been on in the past like 10 years, whether it's a Star Wars and Indiana Jones or like Blade Runner, like all of
Mm-hmm.
them?
Mm-hmm. Think about what Tom Cruise does, and Harrison Ford just like falls down while walking down a ramp. You know,
Yeah, and crashes fucking helicopters.
yeah, I think it's past his time. I know Spielberg gave the blessing, and I know that James Mangold's a very good director, and I'm sure it'll be a competent movie at the end of the day. And I bet that I'll like it more than I like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And it has potential to be better than Temple of Doom or Last Crusade for me, because I'm a Raiders guy at the top. I know some people like Last Crusade the most. What about you?
I'm a Raiders boy 100%. I actually haven't seen the sequels in a really long time, but obviously we had to watch Raiders at Full Sail and everything, so we've
Mm-hmm.
studied it hardcore, and I'm excited for this movie. Like you were saying, Harrison Ford probably shouldn't be the star of this movie, and if I had to guess, being Hollywood, are they gonna set up a young Indiana Jones? They're gonna try once again to try to do it because Shia LaBeouf didn't work out last time. I could easily see them try to do something like that because obviously Harrison's not gonna come back for another one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't think they're going to let the IP die. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that situation. And with James Mangold at the head of it, I'm very hopeful that it's going to be something very cool.
So, a hypothetical question. Let's play studio exec right now. You are Kathleen Kennedy, or she still produces these, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So you're Kathleen Kennedy, and Disney's like, we are gonna make an Indiana Jones movie no matter what. Because I just don't want one. I just don't want it to happen, because I think it's like what we got was great, and we should just focus on making new things instead. But um, if you were Kathleen Kennedy and you had to make an Indiana Jones movie, are you doing one with Harrison Ford, or are you doing one with Shia LaBeouf? Are you recasting with Chris Pratt, or is it animated? How are you doing it?
Uh, Honestly, with Harrison still being alive, I feel like you have to go Harrison, unfortunately. I don't think you could do a big, huge action spectacle, and you don't think you could really have him do it alone. Like, I feel like you'd have to do something like the Crystal Skull kind of tried to do with Shia LaBeouf, but just in a better way with a better script and everything, I think would be a lot better because it's just difficult, like we were saying, with Harrison Ford being in it, but with him being absent, I feel like that would affect the box office and those old fans that they're really trying to get the pockets of. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think they're going to come back without their old boy being there.
I agree. I think that they would go see a movie if it starred Chris Pratt. I think that would happen. I don't want that, but I think they would. And I would rather have Harrison Ford than have anybody else. But here's the thing, and I just thought of this. I was like, if they had to make a Harrison Ford Indiana Jones movie, James Mangold is a great choice, I think. But I would like to see what Paul King would do. He's the guy who directed both Paddington movies. So you
Okay.
have kind of like a softer, more whimsical Indiana Jones movie, as he moves into his latter years.
Then who do we cast as this whimsical Indiana Jones?
Yeah,
It
that's what I'm
is
saying. It's
still
Harrison Ford. That's the
it's still gonna
point.
be Harrison Ford, but as like an old man, like doing like small missions,
Like
like
shenanigans. Yeah, like
nursing home, nursing home. Like I
he's
gotta
still him, but like, and
run.
he still does adventures, but he's not like, the fist fight that he, like, Harrison Ford has with the big guy, Nazi guy who gets killed by the propellers in
Hmm.
Raiders. Okay, now imagine Harrison Ford today having that fight.
Yeah, could
I
be
don't
really,
want that.
but in a nursing home, that could be really funny.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like a more comedic take, because it's laughable. It is laughable. Like, I'm imagining my grandfather doing an action scene, and it's just a lunacy. But the trailer does look beautiful. Like, I just trash it, and I'm like, no, but it looks fantastic. I'm sure I'm going to really like it, if not love it, because I am so close to the Indiana Jones franchise, and there are such competent people. Like, people seem to want to do it. Like, I'm convinced of that. So I'm very excited, but I'm against it on principle.
Yeah, I get that, but I think it's gonna be I think it's gonna be good. Like we were saying, James Mangold, he did the Wolverine, he did Walk the Line back in the day, which is a favorite of mine. I think he's a very good filmmaker, so regardless of what Harrison Ford kind of brings to the table when it comes to the action stuff, I feel like there's gonna be a really fun story here and some cool action set pieces regardless. So very hopeful for what happens here.
Yes. And I don't know. I think James Mangold's good at making dad movies. Like Ford v Ferrari is a lot of fun. You
Oh
know?
yeah, I forgot about 4B Ferrari. Holy shit. Yeah, I love that movie too.
Yeah. So I'm excited. But that's pretty much all I got. What's the last news story we wanted to touch on today?
Oh yeah, so speaking of James Gunn, Warner Brothers, he's running the show there at DC, and there was some pretty big stuff going on right now because Patty Jenkins turned in her script for Wonder Woman 3 and it was rejected. They said no, we're not going in this direction. We're going in a completely different direction, and I guess that's even affecting where Man of Steel 2 is going too. So very curious where everything is going to go, and what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Specifically about the part of the story that you brought up at the beginning about Patty Jenkins' script, I think that there was a list of top 75 directors. I think it was like all time, and Patty Jenkins was on that list. Not a very like reputable list. I think there was a lot of things I thought were weird, but like I do think there's a lot of validity in Patty Jenkins as directing outputs. I understand that a lot of people didn't like Wonder Woman 84 that much. I personally adored it. But the first Wonder Woman is like very well received. And I think she's really talented. And I'm sorry that she was given something that was sculpted by Zack Snyder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, I think she's actually very incredible. I mean, like we were saying, I actually am a bigger fan of 1984 than I am of the first Wonder Woman. I think it has much more style and it's more fun, but I think she's a very competent director. So I'm not sure. I don't think it's her that is the issue here at DC. I think James Gunn is trying to just shake up everything. So it must be that whatever she had going from, and maybe she was writing still from that Zack Snyder universe character, and maybe they're just trying to do stuff completely different. I have no idea. Because another thing I saw, actually, just jumping off topic just slightly, they were talking about casting like for the Lobo character. I don't know how familiar you are with that character. He's
Vaguely.
he's like a kind of like almost like werewolf looking guy, but they said immediately that they wanted to cast Jason Momoa for it, which logistically does make no sense because he's already Aquaman. So they must be trying to shake up everything. Like this Flash Flash paradox or whatever must be something that's going to be very beneficial to whatever they're trying to do, I guess.
I honestly think it might be the opposite because the wouldn't you think that the Flash movie would change things later? Like we'd have the Aquaman movie first, and then Flash would change everything up. Oh yeah, and don't forget Shazam because we're gonna get Shazam before we get the Flash. It's going to be a very interesting year for DC next year, especially since like isn't Blue Beetle a movie that's coming to theaters?
I actually just saw that the other day on my Facebook or something like that, just scrolling through. I was like, okay.
What is that?
I have no idea.
I have
I
no
I
idea what that. I know the character. I'm aware of the character,
mm-mm.
but like, why haven't we heard anything about it? It's a big DC movie, is it not? Like, why aren't we marketing these things that we're trying to do? But I mean, maybe it's a low budget thing. Who knows? But and all efforts are probably focused on Shazam and Flash right now. Which one are you more excited for at the moment?
Shazam. I mean, I was a huge fan of the first one, and I love the cast of it for Shazam too. So I wanted that movie to come out so bad this year, and I'm really disappointed I have to wait a few more months, but still excited.
I'm also disappointed to have to wait because I really wanted more to be in this December month. But actually, speaking of this December month, I know what movie I'm going to bring up to you first later. But just to finish up my thoughts on the DC situation, I understand the desire to distance yourself from the Snyderverse because it had its run, it's had its day in the sun, and it's still going on right now. And I'm happy because I like some of those movies sometimes, but I think it's if we're trying to build something like great, this is not the foundation. So I'm cool with them changing it up.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm. So let's get to one of the movies that we saw this week. I spoke about December. The first big release of September was Violent Night, and I just watched your video of it earlier, so I kind of know your thoughts. But go ahead and talk about them for a little bit.
So I saw Violent Night yesterday. Yes.
Oh,
And
we watched it both yesterday.
yeah, I watched it yesterday like 12:30.
I watched it 10:30 IMAX or RPX. Sorry.
Nice. I wish I would have. We only played at IMAX at my theater only at like 10:30 at night, which I don't want to drive like an hour to go see it at 10:30, but regardless, I went into this movie with some pretty high expectations just because I'm a big Christmas movie guy, especially the non-traditional Christmas movie. I like
Mhm.
horror Christmas movies. I like a bunch of different
Krampus.
things. Krampus, yes. So things that kind of switch things up and kind of just play with that Christmas time of year, I'm always down. And David Harbour, Stranger Things, he played Hellboy, which I feel like I'm one of the only people that liked his version of Hellboy, and I think this movie was a ton of fun. It had John Leguizamo, who was in The Menu earlier this year, playing a kind of douchebag guy, and in this movie, he's playing a villain. And they kind of just come after this family who's rich, and Santa Claus is there when they show up, and Santa Claus is secretly John Wick in disguise, basically, and just goes crazy on all these people. And it's kind of like a Home Alone meets like just a Santa Claus type of movie, and it has like Christmas music in it, and it's just a ton of fun. That's the word for it. It's not perfect. Some of the humor I think was a bit too goofy at times, and they definitely like to use their word fuck a lot when it didn't really make sense for dialogue. They just had that rated R and wanted to use it. But overall, this is probably going to work its way into my Christmas rotation because I just had so much fun. And for a while, Kurt Russell was like one of my favorite Christmas or like Santa Clauses in general in movies, but David Harbour might be my absolute favorite now.
I don't think I have a Santa, like a Christmas Santa. Like if I think about honestly, I don't want to say Tim Allen, but like right now, that's if you ask me who Santa Claus is, I think of Tim Allen.
He's definitely up there for me,
But
regardless of his politics.
I don't like him, and I'm not gonna watch the show that's coming out. But Violent Night, I definitely felt like had a lot of love for the violence in Christmas movies. Like you said, it feels like Home Alone meets Die Hard, but with Santa Claus.
hmm
And it does a really good job of that. It works really well. I really wish I would have saw this with like a full audience and you get the all ooh because it's like a big action movie and it's kind of gross sometimes. Like it's very like you said, it's very violent and it takes advantage of that. It's very funny. I buy his arc, like his whole like shtick, like he's upset with Christmas, and then the little
hmm
girl gives him like hope. I didn't care about any of the family drama though, like with the regular human beings, they were meaningless to me. John Leguizamo was all right.
I liked him. I thought he was actually pretty villainous in his way of like just straight up just being a total Scrooge about Christmas. And I thought it was really fun. But the thing I actually liked more than that was a little touch in there. The mom in the movie. Do you recognize her from any other iconic Christmas movies? Like
Oh,
National
the
Lampoon's
the
Christmas
the
Vacation.
wow, is that her?
She's the mom in those movies.
Yeah, now
There's just
I
little
kind of see it
touches.
now.
There's little touches in there that you don't quite notice, but
Mhm.
yeah, John Leguizamo, he's not like the best villain out there, but I thought he was fun in that role.
Yeah, it was fun. It worked. For me, okay, it didn't really work much for me. Like I think it's good, but like I was kind of like snoozed out. I don't know why. Like it was a fun movie and I was like excited to see it, but I just kind of like it took a while to get to that point where in that like zany Santa action comedy movie, and for a while we're just kind of like hanging out with the family and establishing their whole situation. And like I said, none of that worked for me. I I'm a big fan of this though.
Yeah,
like I think it's good, but I just didn't have a great time with it.
I will say in the beginning, I can totally agree with you. At the parts where David Harbour wasn't on screen with the family, there were parts that I didn't necessarily dislike all the way, but the little girl was cute and stuff like that, and her little dialogue of like her parent wanting her parents to get back together and stuff, like very cliche things that you see a lot, especially in Christmas movies. But yeah, they weren't anything to write home about. None of the actors around them really worked for me. They were kind of
Mhm.
just there to be rich, snobby assholes, which that's a very big theme for movies this year, especially.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's not anything that's like rewriting anything. It's just it kind of is a Christmas script with all of those different things in there with like the family back and forth and everything, just with the violence. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't say it's like horror movie violence by any means, but it definitely is like hardcore action movie, I would say.
Mhm. Oh, I also think that we could cut out like an episode of like a sitcom episode of television out of this movie because it's an hour and 52 minutes. You cut 21, 22 minutes off that, you make it a hard 90 minutes. Like that's a lot more easily digestible for like because it's a really good B movie. You know what I mean? But I
Hmm.
don't need to be like there for 2 hours almost. You know what I mean?
I get that. Yeah, it didn't feel very slow to me, but yeah, if we cut out some of that family stuff that especially to some of the dialogue that was just unnecessary when it came to them just trying to make the audience laugh and it wasn't that
Hmm.
funny.
Hmm.
Those parts could definitely be cut out and it would be probably way stronger than just which I rated it a 4-star movie, which I think my love for it might elevate it just a little bit. It might be closer to a 3.5 on my scale, but
Hmm.
I personally just had a lot of fun with it.
Well, I respect the hell out of it, but
Hmm.
I just didn't. I like it. Like it. I think it's really funny, but I didn't laugh a single time. Like during the movie. Like I have a very high opinion of it, but it's just not for me. I'm at a 3 out of 5. I respect it. I think it works really well, and I think people will like it. People that it's intended for will like it because you can't. There, you can't take your grandma to this. You can't take the kids to this. My mom probably won't be a fan of it. I don't know. Would your mom like this?
She'd probably get a kick out of some of the things, but she probably
Hmm.
what she doesn't even like Jingle All the Way, which I still don't understand.
Okay, so that gives me a good reference. But yeah, so I'm at a 3 out of 5. It's good. Go see it. Why not?
Yeah, if you're into Christmas stuff and you want to see something that's not like Miracle on 34th Street, like your traditional thing, go check it out and let us know what you think.
Hmm. Another movie. Actually, I want you to tell me about a movie you saw in theaters recently.
Well, let's jump into this one because I'm curious what your thoughts are. Bones and All. I saw this one last week and I personally really fucking enjoyed it. Like a lot, a lot. Like it's very, very strange, way more graphic than Violent Night. I'll tell you that right now. It
Hmm.
disturbed the hell out of me in a few scenes, but I'll be damned if I didn't love it so much. Like the connection between the two main characters really works. Like their chemistry is amazing. It's so creepy, like the way, especially fucking Mark Rylance as the creepy, like I don't know if you want to call them like almost vampires, but cannibals. Like it's a very because like some of them are born that way, so it almost seems like vampires. But
I think they're just
regardless,
cannibals.
yeah, it's very crazy. And actually, the funny part too, a little cameo from David Gordon Green in there was actually pretty cool too. Just there's so much in here that works. The editing, especially from like the sound stuff of when they're eating and stuff, and how quiet it gets, and just it's so intense. Like Luca Guadagnino or whatever, is that how you say the director's name?
No idea, but that sounded right. That
Call
sounded
me
close.
Call Me by Your Name, the remake of Suspiria and stuff like that. That's the only two things I've seen from him, but both incredible movies, and this one is right up there too. Love it so much.
No, you could tell just by my reaction that yes, I also love this movie. I said that it was like if A24 made Twilight in a
Mm-hmm.
way. I think it works extremely well, especially since it's on paper, it shouldn't. It's like a romance, but it's like a gore horror type thing. Like, but it's so like I feel like it's very niche. It didn't very much do well at the box office, but I was a big fan of it. I think the performances are fantastic. You hit the nail on the head when you talked about when they were eating and you just hear the sounds of them eating, but you see like pictures of the person they're eating and you're like, oh my God, like that's so like brutal, but like it's so sweet and it's a very conflicting movie. and it works on multiple levels. So I think it's one of the most fantastic movies of the year.
Yeah, it's gonna be one that I feel like a lot of people are gonna see much later and be like, holy shit, this is a really good movie. Why didn't anybody talk about this? And it's disappointing to know that that's gonna happen because the box office, yeah, unfortunately did not get to where it needed to be. But if you have the time, there's a lot of good movies out there right now. But if any of this sounds really crazy, then you want to go see it and you think it's just insane, go see it because it's very intense. And to see it on the big screen is even crazier. And I think I saw it actually in a theater all by myself too. And I think that made it even worse because it was just you were in there all by yourself for 2 hours or whatever it is. And it doesn't really like stop. Like it doesn't it's not fully like bloody and crazy the whole time, but it just has that disturbing haze over it all the time too. And it's not really like a bright movie at all. It's very dark and it stays with that dark tone the entire time too. But it's
It's
also beautiful with the love story. So it has that contrasting element, but not necessarily visually.
Yeah, like it feels like Shakespearean, like but like it's in this horror context,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful movie. I don't think it'll get nominated for much of anything. Maybe original screenplay. I could see it
Well,
getting one.
it's actually adapted, I guess. I actually looked at that. It said it in the credits, I think, and I'm gonna look it up, but I guess it's based off of a book.
Oh, then adapted, maybe.
Which
Probably
I
not.
I would love it to get if it just gets the nomination. I wish it would get the win, but I feel like it's a strong enough nomination because that's what I wrote too when you said the thing about Twilight. It made me remember. I wrote that it's Twilight that it's Twilight with an R rating and a better writer. That's what I wrote.
Yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of Twilight, but I'm a huge fan of this. I would be surprised if this didn't make like the bottom of my top 10. And that's such high praise because we have had such a fantastic year for movies. I would make the argument that 2022 movies are better than 2021 and 2020 combined.
I would honestly agree with that right now. Even just the horror genre alone, so much great shit in there. And I was actually making my top 10 on Letterboxd today, which you can go look at whenever you want to, whether that being yourself or the audience. But I started fashioning it out and I'm not done yet. But Bones and All is like sitting right outside of my top 10, right around like 13, I think. But I really want to push it in there, but I haven't yet. And there's a lot more to see still. But if you're thinking about it and any of this sounds cool to you, go see this movie and you will not regret it.
It's 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I put it at a 4.5, but I need to put it at a 5, I think, just the more I
Oh,
keep thinking about it, because I don't
Trent
think
Reznor
there's
and Atticus Ross.
yeah, there's not really a flaw in there that I can think about. So I think I'm gonna have to bump it up.
And I'm not even the biggest fan of Mark Rylance. I think he's good in it, but he's not my favorite part about it at all. He's far from it, you know?
Well, even I can't remember the actor's name, but it's the dad from Call Me by Your Name as well. That had that he was with David Gordon Green in that scene.
Oh, is that Michael Stuhlbarg?
I believe so. In that scene, that guy was so creepy.
Yes, very creepy. It's a very messed up movie, and I could see like my mom watching it and be like, "You're sick in the head," or my grandma would say I was sick in the head.
Yeah,
But I think it's fantastic. Yeah, people should definitely go check it out.
agreed. We're gonna get into another movie, and it's one that is another one about rich people and about how shitty they are, and we're talking about Triangle of Sadness. Now, I don't know how long ago you watched this one, but I actually just now got to watch it streaming, and it was pretty crazy. I had no idea what this movie was about, first off. I knew it was about rich people, and that's all I knew. And it was about this cruise, I guess, and people are on this boat, and personally, I'm not a boat guy. I get seasick very easily, and there's a scene in here that is forever in my brain now, and it's almost turned into a horror movie because of that. And
Mhm.
but overall, this is a crazy ass movie, and it is one of the funniest comedies, honestly, that came out this year. I consider it a dark comedy,
Mhm.
and it is very much just like shitting on rich people and just showing how not only rich people but influencers as well, and that whole culture about wanting to be like better than everybody else and kind of where that gets you. It kind of shows you both sides of the poor and the rich and kind of how power struggles work. And it's a really funny way of looking at this idea. Like It kind of touches on like a Lord of the Flies type story at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it was an unexpected comedy for me for sure.
I only knew that it was about models, and I didn't really know the rich people part of it. I knew that it was long. It's like a 2 hour and 37-minute movie, but I had loved this movie. I thought it was fantastic. I love the performances. I love the script a lot because I had no idea where this was going at any point in time. And I thought it was really funny, but it was also like trying to be about things. And I just really enjoyed seeing everyone get their comeuppance, you
Hmm.
know? So I'm a big fan of this. I don't think it's going to make my top 10, but I definitely loved it a lot, and it'll be watched again by me eventually.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun in here, whether it's the satire, talking this a commentary on the rich, and especially people like the grenade part, the grenade salesman. That part was
That was
so
hilarious.
funny. There's
Hmm.
just so many moments in here, and like the having everybody on the boat fucking go down the slides because they wanted it to happen.
Hmm.
Just the goofiest things you could think of, like almost like Wes Anderson style humor in a way.
Hmm.
But
But we're still in a very real world, you know.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't get too wacky like that. But
Hmm.
overall, this movie, yeah, like we were saying, it's kind of something that kind of flew under the radar in a way too. Like people are talking about it, murmuring here and there, especially when it comes to the film community, but I don't think this was really like talked about by the masses. And I feel like it's one that could pop up later in life. It's like a cult comedy that I feel like people would really get into.
If it does count as an international film, then I think it has a chance of being nominated for best international feature.
I hope so. I'm still hoping for Triple R there, but if it
I
slides in there,
I would be shocked if Triple R is not nominated for best international feature.
it
I'll be
doesn't
shocked
win.
if it's not nominated for best picture.
I hope so. Because honestly, that's another thing I was making my top 10 earlier, and Triple R is making in that top 10, I think, crazily enough.
I love it. It's a 5 out of 5 for me, but it's not making my top 10. I do think I like it more than Triangle of Sadness, though.
Interesting.
But no, Triangle of Sadness is fantastic. I specifically the ending of this movie is burnt in my brain, like what's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's one of those where you kind of are left wanting more, but like in a good way. Like your imagination can go wild with it.
It's one of those endings that if you have the right kind of mindset, I think, going into it, or just in general when you go into movies and have that type of ending, there are people that enjoy having to kind of make your own conclusion, and there are other people that are definitely going to hate this ending because it just ends. And there are some people, like The Green Knight last year being one of them that I heard people talk about all the time. They hated the ending and everything like that. Like, just think about it. Let yourself have your little imagination. Like, that's the whole point of consuming art sometimes. But I think it's a cool ending, but I can see how people would get very frustrated by it.
But that's my favorite part about it. Like I was so like it was like climaxing at that moment. It was like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? And I'm kind of left with whatever I want to happen, and
Hmm.
I like living in that world.
I think that's sometimes that's the best way to end things, honestly.
Hmm. But yeah, really, really, really good movie. I feel like it's in an unofficial trilogy with the Menu and the other movie we were going to talk about, which is Glass Onion. But did you have any final thoughts about um, Triangle of Sadness?
Other than like you were saying, it's kind of in that trilogy, and I almost want to credit like Parasite in a way for kind of bringing this kind of like attack on rich people kind of into the limelight when it comes to film, especially. But it's funny because yeah, we're gonna jump into Glass Onion because that's another one that talks abundantly about rich people, but in some of the funniest ways possible because it's Ryan Johnson's writing, which you and I are two of the biggest fans when it comes to Ryan Johnson. So let's just jump into it right now. I adored this movie. As you know, I'm a huge fan of Knives Out 1. I saw it twice opening weekend. Literally the Friday it came out, and then I think my friend Mac like texted me on Sunday wanting to go see it. I didn't even tell him that I'd already seen it. I was like, yeah, I'll go see it. I don't know. Just because I wanted to see it again, and it's even better like within a 48-hour period. Ryan is just so quippy and he's smart in how he writes things, and he lets you know things almost right away, but he doesn't really let you know that he lets you know in a way. It's so much
Hmm.
fun, and the characters in this movie. Like I loved the characters in the first movie, but I think these characters, I think I loved them even more. Just because the cast, especially like Dave Bautista playing the fucking musclehead douchebag,
Hmm.
amazing. Of course, Daniel Craig being back as Benoit Blanc, fantastic. And literally just everyone else. I can't name them all off right now, but they all play their kind of like different types of rich assholes that kind of live without help from someone else in a way. And Edward Norton, holy shit. I haven't like another guy in Wes Anderson movies where you kind of see his comedy, but holy shit, the dude is hilarious in this movie.
Hmm. I'm obviously a huge fan. Very, very transparently. I've been a Ryan Johnson guy for the last decade now. Looper is one of my favorite movies of all time. So is The Last Jedi, and so is Knives Out. I think that Glass Onion is a great sequel. It's a bigger sequel. But it's also like I kind of thought it was like 22 Jump Street, where it was like a lateral move. You know what I mean? Like the first one's great, and I personally prefer the first one when it comes to Knives Out. I prefer the first Knives Out to Glass Onion just because it is more classic murder mystery type,
Yeah.
where this gets a little bit more let's say experimental with it. But that's my favorite part about this is that we, you know, subverted expectations. And that's the thing that's great about the first movie, and that's what's great about The Last Jedi. And
That's just
yeah.
what's great about kind of Ryan Johnson in general. Like the funny thing about Glass Onion is I agree with you. Knives Out, I like it more. But the
Mhm.
funny thing about this one is it kind of plays with the same structure in a way of like bringing all these people here, but nobody knows why they're all here at first. And it's funny that way because it almost sets it up like, are we about to just remake the same first movie? But then he just fucking flips stuff on you and just changes stuff immediately where you don't really know what's happening.
Mhm.
And it really just speaks to him in general. Like the way he writes, the way he edits things are just hilarious too, and kind of how he jumps you around in time, but it doesn't really get too confusing.
Mhm.
And all of the accents. And one of my favorite things that I don't know if you caught it as much, but the goofy cop from the first Knives Out, he's the guy in the that's walking around being that goofy guy that's just like I forget what the character's name is right now, but he's just in the background also
Like
staying at the
Devin or something
house.
like that.
Something like that. And it was
Mhm.
so funny because I was like, at first I was like, is that him? And he's just like trying to be undercover as that cop, but no, I guess he's just a completely different character.
Yeah, I thought I recognized him. I thought it was the same guy. But no, I'm a big fan of this movie. I think, are we spoiling it? Are we is that a thing we're gonna do?
I mean, fucking stupid ass Netflix. I want to talk about this real quick before we go into spoilers because I guess we
The
can
box
because
office?
it makes me so mad because
Hmm.
barely let it get released first off. And the funny thing about it is even though it's barely getting a limited release, the theater I saw it in when it opened up the weekend it did, I saw it
Packed.
Saturday night and it was packed. Not a
Hmm.
single seat open, like even all the way up to the front, those ones that are literally like you're staring up at the fucking gods. And it's so irritating because this movie would probably be one of the bigger box offices of the month, especially, let alone the year. But stupid ass Netflix wants to be greedy and hold it to themselves, and it's so dumb. I
Hmm.
truly don't understand it because they're not going to get a bunch of more traffic to Netflix just for Glass Onion. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. But in theaters, it was already going to happen. But Netflix is kind of kicking their own ass lately when it comes
I
to them canceling stuff as well as just not releasing stuff in theaters.
Well, with the streaming stuff, it's hard because like pirating is so much infinitely easier now with streaming being a thing. I think it's really, I guess, I don't know, from their perspective, fuck us. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm Netflix, I don't give a rip because this was an abject, like, win for Netflix. Like, this is the first time, like, not really the first time, but like, this is, new for them to release a big movie of theirs into the theater. They didn't do this with Red Notice, so, and it made a bunch of money and it sold everything out, and because they had it out for a week, there was more of a sense of urgency to go see it because it's like, oh, well, you don't know that it's not going to be out for another month. I'm just mad because they didn't give me a screener for it because I want to rewatch it. I really want to, and I wanted to go see it a second time in theaters because I knew I only had a week. So I think that's kind of clever, but
But they're ruining the theater at the same time. That's the thing that's just kind of sad.
they're
Because it's
leaving money
gonna
on the table.
they're
Yes,
leaving money on the table, but they're also just like they're making it okay for people to just be like, I don't want to run out to go to the theater because it's gonna be on my TV in a month anyway. So people aren't gonna go see it in theaters because people don't really care about the theater anymore when they have fucking 60-inch TVs at home and
but
they don't have
people
to deal
will
with
if it means
stupid
they have to
people.
see it a month early. And think about it. Why did Netflix do this with Glass Onion? Because what's different about Glass Onion than most other big, blockbuster genre films? This one is there's going to be a spoiler. There's going to be a twist ending. You go to these for a twist ending. So if I'm a person who might not really like theaters very much and doesn't go often at all, like never like initiates it themselves, I would to see this movie because I was like, well, if I don't see it this week, it's going to do really well. And I'm not going to know for another month. And it's going to get spoiled for me. So I have to go see it now. So I hate that because I'm on your side. I'm against Netflix doing this, but I just think for them, it's an undeniable win.
Yeah, I see it from your side as well. It just makes me sad because the same thing as like movies like immediately once they leave the theater, it's streaming. So it's almost like you don't it almost makes people not want to go to the theater anymore. And it just kind of makes me sad. But from Netflix's side, I completely get it. And it makes sense, but I also feel like it makes sense to leave it in longer and let people actually see the movie rather than just doing stupid limited stuff because it just kind of ruins it for me. I don't know.
The market's oversaturated. There's too many movies that are out in a year. Not all of them are going to succeed.
Yeah,
Like seldom so are there two movies that open the same weekend that do well. Like that's very rare. You remember Mamma Mia came out against The Dark Knight Rises?
kind of.
Like think about that. Think about that. Like think about how big The
It's
Dark Knight
weird.
Rises is, and think about how big Mamma Mia is today. Like how much the influence they both have on popular culture today still, and they both came out on the same day, and they both did fantastic.
Yeah.
How does that happen? That doesn't happen anymore. That's ridiculous.
The other thing for me is how, like, does this movie is it allowed to get Oscar nominations still? Where
Yeah,
it
they
comes
sent
to
me a
like
box. Yeah, it's gonna get nominated for Oscar.
that's so weird though
Well, I
because
don't
of the stupid
know.
rules. I don't
No, it
understand
will,
them.
especially because of the theatrical release.
I thought it had to have like a certain amount of days in the theater before it could be
No,
nominated.
like a weekend, a whole weekend, a
Oh,
week even. Like I think that's well, I know it is. I know for sure that it is. I think if you're asking if I think it's going to get nominated for anything, original screenplay,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Other than that, no, nothing. Like, can you think of anything that they
I
would
mean,
do,
Daniel Craig deserves a nomination, but he won't get one.
lead or supporting?
And this one probably supporting. I don't
Was he a
know.
lead in the first one?
I know.
I don't
On
know.
a
I
day,
think Daniel Craig's the lead, dude.
it's like kind of on the side. Like I feel like he's one of those characters that could get nominated for either one.
No, no, I think undeniably, right? He's like the
He's
main
the
guy on the
he's the
poster.
lead. He's the lead in the second one, I would say. I don't think he's the lead in the first one. Ana de Armas is by far the lead in the first one.
Yes, yes. And so okay, so that's a good question because that's something I want talking about the lead, who the lead is.
Yeah.
Are we so we're not spoiling it because not enough people saw it in a week, or
I
are
don't
we
think
like,
so. I think we should leave it for now and maybe talk about it next time.
okay, fair, fair, fair. That being said, though, I love the changes that they do with the format. My standout in the cast, besides Daniel Craig, is Benoit Blanc. I thought Ethan Hawke's scene was great.
That was funny. I forgot about that.
But my standout in the main cast, like people who are on the poster, I'm a big Catherine Hahn fan and Leslie Odom Jr. I thought that they were both really great, though they had somewhat limited roles. They were just a part of the party, kind of,
I agree.
but they're my
Actually,
favorites.
I think my major, honestly, like I was saying, Dave Batista, I thought that character was hilarious, especially because knowing Dave Bautista and kind of like how he feels about political things, he was playing something that he was 100% not. And it's very funny
Oh,
that
the
he was playing.
political angle was like, I think very tastefully done. That being said, I agree with it, what their stance is. So maybe I'm definitely biased, but like right from the start, like that was just funny, and it was a great way to let you know, like what kind of people these people are. Just with like, I mean, this isn't a spoiler. Just with the way that they interact with the pandemic, like whether or not they're wearing a mask, what kind of mask they're wearing, how they wear the mask,
Yeah.
like you kind of get a vibe for who these people are really easily through that. And I think that was very, very brilliant. I think people who watch this decades from now are going to be like, what?
Yeah, but I feel like there's enough context there that I feel like they give you that it's
Mm-hmm.
it's
That's why I
for the
love Catherine
characters.
Hahn. Like she's like a chin strap person, and like she's on the phone and she's got so much shit in her hands. Like she cracked me up the whole time.
Yeah, the other I want to give one more shout out real quick because I can't remember her name right off the top of my dome. But Janelle
I
Monet.
think I
I could
know.
not
Yeah,
remember her name, but
yeah.
I don't want. Yeah, we're not going into spoilers, but she does fantastic with what she has to do in this movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
from the different accents and everything, just
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. And I was very surprised by it, but at the same time, I wasn't just because I've seen her in other things and she's just always phenomenal. But
Mm-hmm.
very, very not an easy role to do. And I feel like she's one of the major standouts when it comes to just the effort put in.
Mm-hmm. And I think she's fantastic in it as well. I think she might actually be my favorite in the cast. But you know, it's funny. People talk about this movie. I think this movie overall is funnier than the first one, but nothing makes me laugh more than the fact that in the first movie, every member of the family says that she's from a different country. Like, hey, your family's from Ecuador, you know, like that's this funniest like little tidbit joke. I think they're both great. Like I said, 2122 Jump Street, it's a lateral move. It's fantastic. I can't wait until the next one. Nominate this one for Oscars, please.
Yep, I'm with you 100%. Everyone top to bottom in the cast was hilarious. Like I said, the editing around all the time stuff, great. Music stuff, cool. The way it's shot, just everything. Ryan Johnson just does everything so cool. The
Mhm.
Last Jedi is one of the best Star Wars movies, and we're gonna say it forever. This
Yeah.
podcast is the Last Jedi podcast. Fucking Black
Not,
Adam.
I don't know why I flexed Black Adam in that moment. I thought I was wearing my Last Jedi shirt. Um,
But yes, Ryan Johnson for president.
mhm. So is this in your top 10 of the year?
Yeah,
Top
I
five,
I, I think right now it is sitting in my top five.
top three?
That that is up for debate, but
Okay,
possibly.
fair. I think this is my five of the year because I have EAAO. Nothing's going to beat that. Elvis is very personal to me. And then my three is a movie that I actually, when we're done with this, I would love to talk to you about is Babylon is fantastic.
Yes.
But I can't speak at length about it, but I can say it's fantastic. But I just wanted to say about Glass Onion that it is like right after Tar, so at my fifth spot, I would say.
Yep, I loved it as well. Can't wait for Glass Onion, or not even Glass, Knives Out 3, whatever they decide to call it. And yeah, this movie's fantastic. If you can still see it in theaters, I think it's still playing at a couple spots, I think. Like my theater, I think is still carrying it right now. So if you have the chance, please go see it in theaters. Because I
Mm.
think you're doing yourself a big service if you get to do it.
Oh, there's no way they could see in theater Glass Onion.
No, I for real, I think it's still playing in my theater.
No way. It's definitely not. I promise. It's not playing in any of my theaters in Orlando. No, no, no way. I challenge you right here, right now, because I want to see it. I want to see it again. Like that's why I was mad they didn't send me a screener because I would rewatch it. I rewatched Bones and All. You know,
Yeah, it
I
was
want to
playing
watch
like a couple
rewatch
days ago,
Bodies,
but it's
Bodies,
not there no
Bodies.
more.
Ah,
Wait,
interesting. Okay.
what's
No, I'm
Christmas
sure.
Bloody Christmas?
I don't know. Are you gonna see the Mean One? By the way, the Grinch
I
movie.
want to.
Yeah, it's coming to my theater. I might see it tomorrow at noon.
Hell yeah, bro. You text me when you see it because I really want to know. It looks so terrible, but
I've
I
heard it's
can't wait to
terrible
see
as
it.
well.
If you watched, I watched the trailer, and if you watch the trailer, it looks like something that like we could have probably made it Full Sail pretty easily, other
No,
than
I
making
saw
the Grinch
glimpses of
costume.
the trailer, but I didn't watch the whole thing. I'm sold right away. Like I'm gonna be there day one for the Winnie the Pooh horror movie as well,
Yes.
and then White Noise is on Friday for me. They sent me a box as well with like a sweater in
It's like
it.
that's awesome. I guess the low budget horror movie that I get is called Christmas Bloody Christmas. It's
Mm-hmm.
Christmas Eve, and Tori just wants to get drunk and party when this robotic Santa Claus at a nearby toy store goes haywire and begins rampant killing spree through her small town. And she's forced to battle it for survival.
Wow,
And
it's
now
like
I
a
want to
Chucky
see it.
thing.
No, it's like a Santa Claus, but it's a robot.
Wow.
And I want to see this now so bad.
I think B Christmas movies are peaking right now. They got Violent Night, the mean one, Calling for Christmas.
Well, if I can recommend one to you, if you're thinking about watching a Christmas slasher,
Mm-hmm.
Santa's Sleigh, Slay.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of my favorite movies that I've ever watched when it comes to like Christmas stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes, you talked about that one in your video. I
It
remember.
stars literally a WWE wrestler, Bill Goldberg, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like playing like a
That's
killer
fun. That's a
Santa
whole lot of
Claus.
fun. Wow. Is it so? It's a lot like Violent Night, right?
Yeah, but like it's more like stupid B movie comedy, like low budget.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's from the early 2000s, and the whole premise is they're playing fucking luge or whatever, like the little hole, and you try to like get the disc as close as you can to the hole without going in. And he's playing
Mm-hmm.
that against the Angels, and because he lost, he had to be Santa for a certain amount of years. And once he stopped, he could return being a killer again.
Damn, you gotta put it in the time. I'm sure that's not a bad gig.
I watched that movie. I found it probably like 10 years ago by now, and it's literally become an annual watch for me. It is so goofy and stupid, but it's so much fun.
I haven't thrown on any of my annual watches yet.
You
I
gotta
watched
jump on that.
Spirited and White Christmas, but I have not watched any other Christmas movies thus far. I'm
I, I,
I'm definitely going to.
I'm still behind on Spirited. Have not watched that, but I really want to.
Just to touch on it with the Christmas season about, I think that Spirited is a really well intended movie, but it's very like a run of the mill. Do you know anything about it, like the plot?
No.
Okay, so I won't say anything about it, but it's just a very familiar story, and it's like a very familiar, like it's a twist on the story, but it's a very familiar twist on the story, and it just didn't really work very well for me. It was kind of like a Violent Night, where it's like I think it's good, like 3 out of 5, go see it, but for me, it's just doesn't work for me, and it's definitely not one that I'm going to rewatch again. But I mean, you're a Ryan Reynolds guy, right?
Very much so, yeah.
And you're a big Will Ferrell guy.
hmm
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
feel like
think
it
you'll
has
like
the
it.
elements that I'm gonna enjoy it probably more than the average guy.
It's a musical, by the way, full-fledged musical.
That's what I heard. I didn't know if it was like full on musical. So now that you're saying
Mhm.
that, it makes me even more excited, honestly.
Like that's the best part about the movie, is that it is a musical. It's a very run-of-the-mill movie, like standard movie, but musicals are cool. So
Good numbers and everything.
nothing that I'm like downloading, on my Spotify. And you know what? I say that from time to time, but like usually it takes me like a week or maybe a couple weeks or like a month. But it's been over a month since I watched Spirited, because did you know Spotify Wrapped recently came out? Lyle Lyle Crocodile, top of the world, not top of the world. No, take a look at us now. Made my Wrapped list
I
in
actually
two
have
months.
the one that made mine that I was surprised by was Sincerely Me from Dear Evan Hansen. That one's in my
That's right.
Spotify rap.
That's the best song. I always argue about that song. Actually, this is okay. So let's put this on something that we could relate to this year. What are some of your nominees for best original song this year?
Oh damn.
Because one for me that I want to touch on that had like I said, I like the song Take a Look at Us Now. I don't think it should be nominated for anything.
I still gotta see
I've
that.
listened to a lot. You don't. I mean, if you see Marmaduke, then yes, you have to see Lyle Lyle Crocodile. But it's fine. That number is fantastic, though. That's when the movie works the best. Just like How and Sincerely Me, that's when that movie works the best. When it's like this, like very dark comedy
Yeah.
musical. It doesn't work as this like heavy-handed drama, Dear Evan Hansen, but I digress. The song I've fallen in love with recently is I think it's called Lift Me Up from Black Panther. It's Rihanna's song.
Okay.
It's fantastic. I've
Yeah.
listened to it a million times. It's a very powerful song. It gets me emotional every time I listen to it. It feels very earnest and sincere, and it works really well with the movie and in the context of the story when it's used. So I see myself voting for that this year. Any stand out to you?
The only music I can really think of right now is just Tar, honestly. Is some of that music
Mhm.
you think is gonna get?
Oh, personally, my favorite song from Tar is Apartments for Sale. Like when she's screaming about the apartment because people wanted to buy it or not buy it because she plays her music way too loud.
Yeah.
But she's getting in the middle of getting canceled, so it's over, baby. Actually, that's a great question I would love to ask you after we talk about the music is what you think the best picture nominees will be, because I thought about it today.
Okay.
As we wind down with 10 more minutes left today. But songs, I really like Now We're Cooking from Everything Ever All at Once. It's the Randy Newman song for
Yeah.
Rakakuni. The Now We're Cooking. It sounds like a Pixar song, you know.
Yeah.
That was
Trying to
fantastic.
trying to think of other stuff. Nothing's really popping in my head at the moment.
The Batman score will get nominated. I think Bones and All score, Empire of Light score will be nominated. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of Babylon for sure, dude. You
Oh
got to say, how are
yeah.
you feeling about Babylon? I can't
I'm
speak much on it.
I'm so excited to see it. It has all the elements. Like I said, when I was seeing all the cast and everything get announced, I've been in on this movie immediately. Like Damien Chazelle, obviously. Love the guy to
Mhm.
pieces and will watch anything he does. So can't wait to see it. When does it actually come out so I can see it?
December 23rd. So
Oh,
it's going to be a Christmas movie.
yeah, I
It's 3 hours and 8 minutes long. It's my third favorite movie of the year. Yeah, half the people that came out of the screening loved it, and the other half of the people hated it, like vehemently.
that's crazy. I don't know how you could hate a Damien Chazelle movie.
It makes some bold decisions, and it's a very bold and brass movie. I love it. It's one of my personal favorites of the year, if not all time. But I could see how someone would not like it.
How does it rank in his movies?
For me, I think Whiplash is a cut above La La Land, because Whiplash is one that I rewatch all the time. It's my favorite movie of 2014, 2016. La La Land's not my favorite movie. It's my second favorite behind Swiss Army Man. But yeah, definitely Whiplash, then La La Land. Those could be interchangeable, really. Then it's Babylon, and then it's First Man, which I still love First Man. That's just showing like how highly I look upon Damien Chazelle.
Yeah,
Like, do you agree?
honestly, I love all three, and honestly, my ranking right now is the same, obviously, with Babylon being out of it. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's fantastic.
All right, rattle. Yeah, I want to hear rattle off some movies you think will get nominated for Best Picture, or do you want me to say what I have and you tell me what I'm wrong about?
You go ahead and start. I just want to pull up my list real quick of things that I was ranking just to have it next to me.
Mhm. I'm going to go through some obvious ones first. The Fablemans, it's Steven Spielberg, so main character. It's a very well received movie. It's definitely trying to get nominated, and I think it's better than West Side Story. And if West Side Story got nominated, I think this is getting nominated. I told you earlier that I believe Top Gun Maverick will not only get nominated for Best Picture, but I think it'll win Best Picture. Um,
That one I don't agree with. Like, I agree it'll get nominated, but I don't know if it'll win.
That's just my prediction. I'm trying
Yeah.
to be bold with it. Everything Ever All at Once has gotten a lot of clout both in the independent community and also like A24 is a big player in the awards,
Hmm.
and they won with Moonlight, and this is their highest grossing movie ever. So it's the most accessible to like audiences, even though it's a very unaccessible movie. But that's three. I don't think there's a more obvious one than those three. Other ones that I think will get nominated: Tar. I think Elvis might get one. I know I'm grasping. RRR. I think the Batman has a shot. I have Empire of Light has a shot. I think Babylon will for sure get nominated. I think The Whale has a shot. Any major ones that I'm missing here? Triangle of Sadness probably won't.
Do we think Wakanda Forever sneaks in there
No,
just as an
not at all.
honorary?
Not one bit. Not a
No?
bit. Avatar of Way of Water for sure, though. I think Wakanda Forever will get nominated for things like Angela Bassett will might get a nomination, Best Original Song. Rihanna. Like I said, I would
Dude,
vote for that to win.
I want Angela Bassett to win so badly.
Mm-hmm.
So
Uh,
badly.
I mean, I currently I like Jamie Lee Curtis and Everything Ever All at Once better. I like Michelle Williams. Did you see Fablemans yet?
I have not. I really want to, but I haven't yet.
Big recommendation there. It's obviously it's Spielberg, so it's a no-brainer. But it's just a really cute, sweet movie. And I mean, it's Spielberg. I mean, what period.
I would nominate Mia Goth for Pearl, but they won't do it.
I have her in my top five right now. Oh, that's the thing, because the awards voting it ends like next week or something like that, or 2 weeks from now, not even, but it's before Christmas. So I have to know who I'm voting for very soon. So I'm making these lists right now. Um, but I think I don't think Elvis will get nominated for Best Picture, but it's gonna get nominated for Best Original or Best Lead Actor.
I would love Nope to sneak in there, but I don't
It's
know
on
if it
my
will
one favorites of the year, but I don't think it will.
because I don't like. I feel like people just aren't talking about it anymore, and it's kind of out of the lexicon. So
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I think it's going to fall victim to that. But Triple R is the one that I'm very hopeful for. Sneaks in there for a Best Picture, not just international,
Mm-hmm.
but Best Picture especially.
I think it's a lock for international. I mean, I heard Decision to Leave is good as well. I've not seen that yet, but I don't know. RR has a shot because it's very well received in a lot of circles in the film community. I think that it will if it gets a re-release in IMAX in like January when like nothing's out. Ooh, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
But
another thing that I really want to happen that I don't think will for Barbarian to get an original screenplay nomination.
that would be cool. That would be interesting. But I don't think that they're cool enough. The
They're not cool
Academy.
enough.
That no, there's no way the Academy is cool enough. That's the thing. They'll like post about Barbarian, like they
Mhm.
like it, and then they will like they posted about X and Pearl, and I was like, I promise they won't nominate either of those movies for anything.
if if any of them get nominated, it's Pearl because Pearl speaks to those older people, especially being because it comments on like the Wizard of Oz type style and stuff like that, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
captures that old Hollywood. But I I wish they would, but yes, it's all just for show. The Academy won't be that cool. Maybe it'll get cooler when it gets to our age. Once we're older, maybe the Academy will
Mm-hmm.
get better. Fingers crossed. But yeah, unfortunately, horror is just
It's
not
not
going to get
appreciated.
noticed.
It's not
Nope.
recognized whatsoever. I
Horror
mean,
and
Get Out
stunts.
was.
Well, yes, Get Out was enough of a cultural movement just for people in general, just to especially box office and
It's the
just
most iconic horror movie of the 2010s.
yeah, it has the most impact when it comes to just the horror genre and especially the 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the long lasting effect that it still talks about. Like people talk about it in their top 10.
Mm-hmm. So, all right, fine. With 2 minutes left, what do you think is going to win Best Picture right now, if not Top Gun? Is it Everything Ever All at Once? I know people think that will
Honestly,
win.
honestly, Everything Everywhere All at Once has a strong shot for me because it just from not just me, because of course it is my favorite movie of the year still, but just from the impact again that it had with the box office, as well as just everyone was talking about it. Yes, there were some people that didn't get it, but I feel like there were enough people, especially in the film industry, that talked about it. Like that movie is deserves all the nominations, especially for editing,
Mm-hmm.
cinematography. Like the movie is one of the best artistic like achievements probably
Mm-hmm.
since Avatar, if we're being serious when it comes to like how crazy and just unrealistic and kind of just like unexpected it was.
But here's the problem: if my grandma is watching the Oscars and Everything Ever All at Once wins, she's probably going to turn off. Well, it's over, but like she's going to turn it off and she won't like watch it next year. This is an old people thing. We are the minority right now.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I feel like this movie has enough to grab at the older audiences. Like, I haven't showed it to my parents yet, but I still plan on it because I know your parents
Oh,
weren't high on it, but
oof.
I feel like my parents would get it a little bit more, maybe. I'm very
Mm.
curious to see how it comes out, but I think it has enough there, but I don't know. If it doesn't, I don't know what else really sneaks in there other than Top Gun or like maybe Batman.
Mhm.
People really like that Batman movie.
It won't win, but it might get nominated. But what do you guys think that should win Best Picture this year at the Oscars? What do you think is going to get nominated? There's so many great movies out. Please go watch them. I have been Adam from the Adam Steve Show.
And I am Steve from the Film Fan Reviews and the Adam and Steve Show. Check us out
Mm,
on our platforms. He's got one Adam
hard
Ryan
reviews.
Donato at the Hard Reviews. You got me at the Film Fan Reviews, and we'll see you next time at the movies. And tell us all the comments what you think and subscribe to all of our stuff.
And Pandora, I'm in space going there now. Woo.
And I'm not. I'm gonna stay here in this apartment that's not mine. Yeah, he left.
I flew away.